Welcome to the Bible Forum. We've got a little bit of eschatology to discuss tonight. If you have not been around theological people very much, you don't know what that 75-cent word means. It means the doctrine of end times, eschatology. The author of an ebook entitled Coming to Jesus, as well as a book entitled Signs of the Second Coming and Racing Toward Armageddon, is a fellow by the name of Britt Gillette, and he writes for endtimesbibleprophecy.com. He poses an interesting end times scenario that goes like this. In early September of this year, 2018, Russia, Turkey, and Iran met in Tehran to discuss the future of Syria. This was not the first time. These players have been meeting for years. In the mid-September meeting, Russia and Turkey agreed to carry out coordinated military patrols on the borders of a demilitarized buffer zone between Syrian troops and rebel forces in Syria's Idlib province. Now, there are 14 provinces in Syria. This is one that's up on the Turkish border. It is one of at least two that form that Turkish border. Idlib is apparently the last major stronghold of rebel and jihadist groups trying to overthrow Assad in a civil war that has killed more than 400,000 people and has displaced millions. As the war seemingly winds down, these three powers will decide the future. So how do these three seemingly disparate nations get together? I mean, Turkey is Sunni Arab. Iran is Shiite. They don't get along. Not exactly a marriage made in heaven. And Turkey is a member of NATO, formed specifically to counter Russian military aggression. The answer is found in an old Arab proverb: "The enemy of my enemy is my friend." You see, Russia maintains an important naval facility in Tartus, Russia. It's the Russian Navy's only overseas base, vital for repair and refueling of the Russian Navy. As we've already seen, Russia will fight to keep its naval installation in Tartus. Syria has long been an ally of Russia and the Soviet Union. The Assad family has been aligned with Russia against Western influence in the region for years. Russia wants to keep Assad in power and maintain its regional presence. Syria has also been a lucrative market for the sale of Russian weapons and commodities. Russia doesn't want to lose that market. Thirdly, Russia wants to expand its presence in the Middle East. Russia's military entry into the Syrian civil war in 2015 turned the tide of that war. It clinched eventual victory for Assad. This means Russia will maintain enormous influence over Assad and Syria moving forward. And fourthly, we have Russia's alliance with Turkey and Iran that serves to strengthen its influence in the Middle East, at the same time dividing NATO. It strains the relationship between Turkey and its Western NATO allies. I personally believe Turkey's going to pull out. But what does all this mean? Well, a lot, it seems. A potential massive attack on rebels in Idlib, home to around 3 million people, could spark a humanitarian crisis on Turkey's border. It could unleash a nightmare scenario where hundreds of thousands of refugees, including militants, flee toward Turkey's borders, destabilizing towns and cities under its control. Turkey doesn't want to see that happen. It's already hosting 3 million Syrian refugees, and it has sealed its borders to anybody new. The second thing is that Turkey wants a stable border. It wants to take advantage of Syria's civil war and gain influence and control over Syrian territory. It is doing that by backing the Sunni rebel groups. Thirdly, most of all, Turkey wants to suppress Kurdish militants on its borders. Kurds are Western friendly, threatening direct conflict with the United States, which is backing Kurdish rebels in Syria. And all of this has driven Turkey closer to Russia and led it to play Russia and NATO powers against each other for its own benefit. So why is Syria so important to Iran? Well, Iran has decades of close ties to Syria going back to the 1979 Islamic Revolution, and both nations champion the Shiite Muslim branch of Islam. Oh, and Iran already has regional footholds in Lebanon, Iraq, and Yemen, and it wants to keep and expand its influence in a nation neighboring Israel and Lebanon. Secondly, a presence in Syria gives Iran land access to the Mediterranean Sea. This provides Hezbollah and other proxies a platform to attack Israel. Access to Israel's border would provide Iranian armed forces a platform to launch a future invasion. Thirdly, Iran wants to keep Syria allied against Israel, and since Hezbollah and advisors from Iran's Revolutionary Guard have helped Assad throughout the civil war, they're well positioned to take advantage if he retains power. So, what does all this portend for the future? After almost 8 years of conflict, the Syrian civil war is coming to a close. The aftermath will see Syria carved into spheres of influence. Russia, Turkey, Iran will dominate those spheres, and all three countries will remain in Syria. Now, this makes it likely they'll continue to work together to avoid conflict and pursue their shared interests. So why should we care? Well, because the new Syria might be foreshadowing the soon fulfillment of Bible prophecy. The shared interests of Russia, Turkey, and Iran could lead them to launch an invasion that was prophesied over 2,600 years ago. We're talking about the war in Ezekiel 38:39, 6 centuries before the crucifixion of Christ. The prophet Ezekiel foretold a future invasion of Israel. He said it would occur in the last days. He said it would come from the north of Israel. And he said it would involve a coalition of nations led by Russia that includes Iran and Turkey. Never before have these three nations been in any sort of alliance. But today, all three sit on Israel's northern border. Coincidence? Not likely. So when will they attack? Well, no one knows why they will ultimately attack, but rest assured they will. The stage is set. It's set for the fulfillment of Ezekiel 38 and 39. The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob will win that battle. Ezekiel 39, verses 3 through 6. And the whole world will know that He, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, is the one behind that victory. Ezekiel 39:21. It goes like this. And the word of the Lord came unto me, Ezekiel, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him. And say, Thus saith the Lord God, Behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. Scholars most commonly think of this as Russia. Verse 4, And I will turn thee back, and put hooks in thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth, and all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. In verse 5 it says Persia, which is Iran, Ethiopia, and Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet. Gomer, that's Eastern Europe, around the Rhine and Danube valleys, and all his bands, the house of Togarmah. These are Armenians. We know that because to this day they refer to themselves as the house of Togarmah. And the Turks, not Kurds, who are the ancient Medes and Persians of the north quarters, and all his bands, and many people with thee. Be thou prepared, and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. The thee and thine in this passage refers to Israel. This is a message God was giving to Israel. Verse 10, Thus saith the Lord God, It shall also come to pass that at the same time shall things come into thy mind, and thou shalt think an evil thought. Which is what? Verse 11, Let us go up to the land of the unwalled villages, to the people that are gathered out of the nations, which have gotten cattle and goods, that dwell in the midst of the land. The land always refers to Israel. It is the land which God gave them. Verse 15, Thou shalt come out of the north parts, thou and many people with thee, all of them riding upon horses, a great company, a mighty army. And thou shalt come upon my people of Israel, and I will bring thee against my land. And when God shall come against the land of Israel, not God, Gog shall come against the land of Israel, my fury shall come up in my face. Surely in that day there shall be a great shaking in the land of Israel. The fishes of the sea, the fowls of the heaven, the beasts of the field, and all creeping things, and all the men that are upon the face of the earth shall shake at my presence. The mountains shall be thrown down, the steep places shall fall, and every wall shall fall to the ground. And I will plead against him with pestilence and blood. I will rain upon him and upon his bands and upon the many people that are with him, and overflowing rain and great hailstones, fire and brimstone. Thus I will magnify myself, sanctify myself, and be known in the eyes of many nations, and they shall know that I am the Lord. Here's a description of how it's going to be during the Great Tribulation, with Israel as the central focus. The age-old enemies of Israel, the non-Christians, the non-Jews, will come against Israel to destroy her. But her God will defend her. Is this the Battle of Armageddon? It probably is. The great culmination of empires gathered to destroy Israel. When is this going to take place? No doubt during the Great Tribulation. From the north, Russia, Turkey, Iran, Syria, moving down. From the south, Egypt, Libya, and Ethiopia, moving up. From the east, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, the Emirates. And from the west are the defenders, the Western Confederation of Nations. Russia, Turkey, Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, and Iran, ancient Persia, are already poised. The southern nations are staying in the background. The eastern nations are chomping at the bit, Arabs all. while the Western nations who have the political, financial, and military power are standing in the way. But during the Great Tribulation, there is going to be a coup that takes out 3 of the 10 protectors that were assigned, giving rise to the beast who is raised from the dead on the 3rd day. I don't plan to be around. Do you? But it is very clear to see all the pieces on this chessboard being lined up. In the south is Egypt and Libya and all like that, Ethiopia. And it is Egypt that is working to keep the Palestinians under control. At the beginning of the program, I mentioned how that Egypt had the Palestinians had a meeting with Egypt after Israel bombed them with 95 bombs. And they concluded as a result of Egypt's counsel that we need a ceasefire. Egypt is very much engaged in this as a sort of pacifier. They have armies on the border, the southern border. And these rebels, these crazy Arabs and others, are constantly trying to come down toward Egypt and take their territory. And Egypt is having to fight them back. Egyptians are not Arabs. Did you know that? No. But they're going to play a part at the end times. They're going to be the spoilers. The Bible talks about the army coming against Israel and God beating them back, or Israel beating them back. And in the wake of all of that, a great army from the south will take advantage and move up. In the end, God will destroy them all. Keep your eye on Israel. Good, bad, or ugly. That's where God's moving.